In 1978, Joseph and Anna Michel, Ernst Alt, and Arnold Renz were all charged by the state of Bavaria in Germany for negligent homicide in the death of Joseph and Anna's daughter, Annaliese. Joseph and Anna were represented by the famous defense attorney Erich Schmidt-Leichner. The other two defendants were priests, whose defense attorney was hired and paid for by the church. At the end of the trial, the priests were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence and sentenced to 6 months in jail. This sentence was later rescinded, and instead, they were placed on a 3-year probation and obligated to pay the costs of the legal proceedings. Annaliese's parents, on the other hand, were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence, but were free of any punishments as the court deemed that they had suffered enough from the death of their daughter. What makes this case so unique and baffling is the foundation of the homicide charge. Annaliese's parents had engaged priests, Alt and Renz, to perform exorcism on their daughter whom they believed was possessed by a demon. This case generated a lot of public attention as it turned out to be the first case of exorcism tried in a court of law. To get a grasp on the prosecution and the defense's point of view, we need to circle back to the beginning of this story, examine the facts surrounding Annaliese's death, and review the theories laid down by the parties in the case. Annaliese was born in 1952 into a devout Christian family that resided in Klingenberg, Bavaria, in West Germany. She was described as bright and likable, but her stellar behavior began going downhill in September of 1968. She was just 16 years old when she lost consciousness for the first time. She vividly remembered the episode and described it like she was pressed down on her chest and restricted to the bed. By the time she woke up, she had wet the bed. The family didn't pay much attention to this incident until it occurred again on the 24th of August 1969. During her episode, she was convulsing, had wet the bed again, and claimed to have seen demonic faces. Her family described the episode as trance-like. Her mother then took her to their family doctor, Dr. Vogt, who recommended a neurologist named Dr. Siegfried Luthi. Dr. Luthi performed a full mental examination, including an electroencephalography test, on Annaliese, but found nothing wrong on the scans. Nevertheless, he diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, which is a form of seizure that is hard to detect. It causes memory loss and visual and auditory hallucinations. Dr. Luthi prescribed anticonvulsant medication and an anti-seizure medication called Dilantin for Annaliese. The drugs helped her subdue her episodes for a period of time, during which time she enrolled at the University of Würzburg in 1973. The drugs became less effective as each day passed, and not long after she commenced at the university, her mental condition took a turn for the worse. She claimed she saw and heard the devil wherever she went. She would hear loud knocks on her bedroom door, which her sisters also claimed to hear. On one occasion, when she was praying, the devil told her she was damned and would rot in hell. Her mother also witnessed Annaliese staring hard at a statue of the Virgin Mary, and her eyes were turned black, jet black. Her mother also claimed her hands turned into thick paws with claws. Annaliese also reported smelling burnt feces, which she believed was oozing out of her. She concluded that the demon was not just in her surroundings, but had possessed her. Her mother took her back to Dr. Luthi, explaining the new events to him. He allegedly advised them to consult a Jesuit, a religious person. He, however, denied it when confronted about it in court. Annaliese also believed her only chance at recuperating was outside of modern medicine, so she approached many priests afterward, but they all declined, saying they needed the bishop's approval before such exorcism could be performed. Her mental health worsened as each day went by, and she was diagnosed as neurotic with possible epilepsy by another psychiatrist in November of 1973. The psychiatrist took her off Dilantin and recommended a much stronger drug called Tegretol. The new prescription did not help either, as Annaliese went down a dark hole in July of 1975. She barely slept at night and constantly ripped her clothes off her body. She did about 400 squats a day, crawled under a table, and barked for 2 days straight. She also fed on spiders and coal. She bit a bird's head off and licked her urine off the floor. She also raged at religious objects as she destroyed rosaries, crucifixes, and holy pictures hung on the wall. Her family reported that she exhibited superhuman strengths, one of which was squeezing an apple in one hand until fragments of it exploded in the room. Annaliese wrote to a priest named Ernst Alt about her condition, stating that, "I am nothing. Everything about me is vanity. What should I do? I have to improve. You pray for me." Alt believed she was possessed by a demon but still wanted a second opinion, so he consulted Father Radovic, who was known as an expert in exorcism at the time. Considering the extent of the strange behavior displayed by Annaliese, Father Radovic also believed she was possessed by a demon and deliberated on her case with the bishop. Thereafter, the local bishop, Josef Stanfel, approved the exorcism on a condition that they kept it secret. He appointed priest Arnold Renz to head the exorcism. Over the next 10 months, Priest Alt and Renz performed a total of 67 exorcisms on Annaliese, with each one lasting about 4 hours, and had 42 audio recordings of the whole exercise, which would later be tendered before the court to give people an insight into what transpired during the sessions. The first exorcism was executed on the 24th of September 1975, and the last on the 30th of June 1976. The demons fought for control of power in her body and communicated through her mouth in growls. During one of the sessions, she revealed with a growl that she was possessed by 6 demons: Lucifer, Judas, Iscariot, Nero, Cain, Adolf Hitler, and Valentin Fleischmann, an excommunicated German priest from the early 1900s. The priests kept performing exorcisms on her, but in May of 1976, her episodes escalated. She banged her head against the wall non-stop, bit herself so hard, and had to be tied up in order to prevent her from hurting herself. Despite the restraints, she found another way to hurt herself. She refused to eat, saying she was not permitted to consume anything. The priests claimed to have sought medical help at this point, but Annaliese refused it. She was gradually starving and had also broken bones and tendons in her knees from the numerous kneeling during exorcisms. The 30th of June, 1976, marked the last day of Annaliese's exorcism. According to the priest, the demons in her told them she was finally free of the possession and chanted the phrase, "Please, absolution," throughout the session. The following morning, she was found dead in her room at age 23. Autopsy results showed that she weighed 68 pounds and had died as a result of malnutrition and dehydration. The priests and her parents were charged to court on counts of negligent homicide. There are 2 theories in relation to this incident, and each of them was presented by each party in the case. Let us take a quick look at each of the arguments. The prosecution believed the victim was never possessed and she was manipulated to believe she was by her parents, taking advantage of her religious philosophy and epilepsy. The prosecution was convinced she suffered only from epilepsy and psychosis, needing medical help but which her parents and the priests refused to facilitate. They stated that the psychosis had stemmed from the medications she was prescribed, which they believed suppressed her seizures but erupted in delusions associated with epilepsy. They made sure not to leave any stone unturned as they questioned Father Alt's mental health too, saying he exhibited signs of schizophrenia. Remember, Alt was the first priest to agree with Annaliese's claims of demonic possession. The defense, on the other hand, tried to prove that the victim was possessed by demons and the exorcism was their only option. They presented the audio tapes, including the one where Annaliese growled and mentioned all the demons that had taken control of her body. Likewise, the defense attorney, Erich Schmidt-Leichner, stated that the deceased's pupils were unusually dilated and that no signs of ulcers were found on her body, as expected of someone who had died of starvation, as the autopsy read. The attorney also claimed that Alt had consulted one Dr. Richard Roth to help Annaliese toward the end of the exorcism, and he allegedly replied that there is no injection against the devil. Schmidt-Leichner proceeded to rebut the psychosis claims made by the prosecution. The prosecution had noted that the psychosis was caused by the prescribed drugs, but Annaliese's psychosis began long before she was placed on the medication. In fact, she had visited the doctor because of the hallucinations and seizures she suffered. At the end of the trial, Annaliese's parents and the priests were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence. They were, however, let off the hook with only the priests paying for legal proceedings and placed on probation for 3 years. Ultimately, the only notion confirmed in this case was the death of a young lady. Everything else mentioned were mere claims from parties involved in the case. It is safe to say each position in this case is largely based on the belief or disbelief in demons, as the case may be. So, are you a strong believer of the supernatural, or a skeptic who needs a scientific explanation for every phenomenon? Do you believe Annaliese died from demon possession, or was it due to inadequate medical help? Leave us a comment on what you think. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Likewise, turn on notifications so you never miss a video.